But the biggest issue, and I've tried this, I've tried fall in multiple ways. The biggest issue is timing based on the heat. Hard stop for me.
In
What
the
do you think?
for fall?
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, the biggest issue is accepting that you're going to be planting in the heat. So it's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Still tied to the heat, but like
absolutely.
getting over that hump. Like, are you trying the idea of like waiting for it to get a little bit cooler?
Yeah. Yeah. The
Yeah.
idea of like it's going to get
Mm-hmm.
cooler. I know it is. And man, look,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've had I can't tell you how many Halloweens I've had dripping sweat in some stupid ass costume that I was just dying to wear. I don't even like so I have a child and we go trick or treating as a family. I don't even like dude, I'll be a pirate for the next 5 years because I can wear tank tops and shorts and stuff. It's like, you know, one year he wanted to be a Pokemon, so my wife, God bless her soul, she made him a crap. I haven't watched Pokemon with him in so long I can't remember. I know somebody listening right now is screaming at this podcast because I can't. Charmeleon, I think is his name. Anyway, she made him a costume. This is an amazing costume. She made it out of fleece. He got 3 houses down the road on October 31st, and he was like, "I'm gonna pass out." You could see him wobbling. He was so hot. He took out. He's
Mm-hmm.
dripping in sweat. If I waited until after
The
that,
weather was cool.
my
Yeah.
frost is my cool weather is like 2 weeks away. So there's not a lot of time. So accepting the fact that like these cool season crops, which is what they're called. This is not a term that we made up. These cool season crops going in the heat was very confusing to me. And so dealing with the heat and all that stuff was something we can do, and I mean, quickly to deal with the heat. Um, Shade, water,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
mulch. There's not much else you can do. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. I think your transplant time, if you're transplanting things in, is important. So I typically try to transplant things into the garden, no matter the season, on an overcast day.
Mm-hmm.
Even maybe there could be just a little bit of a sprinkle of rain. Um, if I can't get that in the forecast, I'll transplant in the later afternoon, right? And some people don't like this method, but I want my plants to acclimate over the evening and in the night and then come into the new day, even if it's a sunny day, versus transplanting something at 8 a.m. and they have to
Absolutely.
fight, the sun of the day. The third item, so the second for me and the third
Oh,
would
you're gonna do two at
be,
once?
well, I did the first one, which you
Oh
tapped
yeah,
into.
I did.
Yeah. So now I'm going to come back with another one. Um, and this may just be personal. I miss steak, the time that things take to grow in the fall every single year. I underestimate how much longer things are going to take to grow. If I plant the same plant in the spring, I think about, gosh, that thing really took off. And in my mind, the combination of that seed package, maturity time, I get out there and I watch. Now I'm babying that thing that has been growing, those lettuce seeds. This happened 2 years ago. And I'm just looking at them and looking at them. And they're like, they have two true leaves for weeks. Right.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I always think I have more time than I do, just generally speaking. But then I don't respect the idea that it just takes these things longer to grow. I'm not talking months longer, but longer to grow this time of year. And you have to give it that chance.
You know, so first of all, when you said I miss steak, I was about to be like, well, go buy a ribeye. It took me a
I
second
actually
because you
have some
paused.
steak thawed. I'm glad you reminded me. Yeah, I need to cook it today. Go
All
ahead.
right. What time's dinner?
Yeah, it's gonna be a late lunch.
Oh, okay.
You know I do.
Um, I think I'll just feed off of you for the rest of the show.
Hmm.
You keep bringing up good points. For me, it's almost the same, but what happens in the fall is I get confused because I have just seen plants, just like you said, but not spring plants, but like your tomatoes and stuff like that. I'm harvesting, everything is giant. You know, I'm sitting here trying to figure out like, how am I going to get this crop out of my garden so I can move? You know, oh, I did it again. There's too much of this, and then you go back and you pull everything. You put this little plant in, and you have to understand something too with this time of year. Yes, you're going to be planting in the heat. Yes, you're going to be fighting the heat. But also what that does is it slows the growth down of the plant at
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
first. So you're going to, you know, when you put a plant in the spring, if you've timed it out right, which luckily it's almost foolproof for spring planting, you know, within reason, things will take off very quickly. They may sit stagnant for a little while. And there's a couple things to that will help facilitate that stagnant. One of them, and actually I'm not going to feed off of you because I'm just going to jump into it, is the nutrient load in your garden. So you've
Mm-hmm,
come through
mm-hmm.
a whole season, you've planted, and it's very depleted. So adding that fertilizer in early before you plant so it can start to break down can help. And you also know if you've done it right, you haven't, like, let's say you put cabbages behind your tomatoes and you pull your tomatoes out, you put your cabbages in. Well, you haven't been giving your tomatoes a lot of nitrogen.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of nitrogen left, but cabbages need a lot of nitrogen. So we've got to get that back into the garden, and you've got to get it in fast, right? So I agree with Batavia completely. Planting in the afternoon, that's like rule number one for me, if possible.
Mm-hmm.
Plant it in the afternoon, late as possible. You know, I like to plant it about 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yep.
So it gets a little bit of sunlight, and then, you know, same thing. But then it's like a week later, like go ahead and put some kind of like granular nitrogen down, and then come back, and then in a week or so, once you see some kind of growth, get it to grow. You know, push it some
Mm-hmm,
liquid
mm-hmm.
nitrogen of some sort. When I say liquid nitrogen, I don't mean like pure nitrogen. I mean some kind of fertilizer that's higher in nitrogen, and give it that boost because that garden bed is depleted badly.